Hello viewer, my name is Pastor Guy. I just want to welcome you to this brand new program called Healthy Conversations. This is a program where we're going to be talking about matters health, and I really want to ensure that you don't miss any part of this episode. And it's going to be lively, it's going to be important for you and me to just be there for these healthy conversations. Right at the onset, I want to go to this Bible text from 3 John chapter 1, and I'll read verse 1 and 2, and it says, "The elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health just as your soul prospers." You see, this text tells us that God has good thoughts for us. He wants us to prosper. He wants us to prosper in all things, including matters health, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, social health. God craves for your prosperity. He wants you to prosper in all things. And now to help us discuss matters of health, today in studio we have our guest, and who is none other than Dr. Danny Hong, and he's here with us. Welcome, Dr. Hong.
Thank you.
Now, just to set things straight, just help the viewer understand, who is Dr. Hong? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, viewer. My name is Dr. Danny Hong, and I'm originally from California, from the United States of America. But I moved to Kenya 3 years ago, and I've been serving as a missionary physician at Kindu Adventist Hospital. I was trained in internal medicine, and I'm a lifestyle and internal medicine physician.
Thank you so much, Doc. Now, let me ask, what motivated you to go into med school? Is it like, some of my friends here in Kenya say they go into med school because they're going to make much money there. What really was the motivating factor that led you to go into med school?
So I really wanted to be able to help my patients and help the community. So the most gratifying part of being a doctor is being able to walk with my patients alongside their health journey and being able to help them on the road to recovery. So that's been the reason why I wanted to do medicine and why I wanted to do healthcare.
That sounds good. So how many years have you been in medical practice, and what has been your experience through these years?
So I started training in 2011, so it's been around 12 years right now.
That's 12 solid years. You said that you've been in Kenya for the last 3 years. Which other countries have you served as a medical missionary?
So I was first in Papua New Guinea, and then I was in Rwanda, and then I was also in Malawi and the Philippines.
That's quite a wealth of experience. So what has been your experience, getting involved in dealing with your patients, talking to them about medical issues, watching your patients, from one step to another? I don't know whether they recover. I know some of them, succumb. What's been your experience so far?
So now we don't have 100% success, but what's really gratifying is knowing that everywhere people want to change and they want the best for themselves. They really crave health. And I think that when we work alongside with them as doctor and patient and we walk the road together, it's helpful to know that they're not alone. So we walk with them step by step, we provide counseling, we treat them, we see them in the hospital, and that's really impactful for me.
Thank you so much. Now, I know that we are going to be talking about many different aspects, Dr. Hong. But now for this particular season, we want to focus on lifestyle diseases. And just on the onset, I would like you to bring us to speed on what are lifestyle diseases. When someone talks about lifestyle diseases, what does that mean?
Thank you. So lifestyle medicine is a fairly new branch of medicine, and it's something that's now gaining more and more awareness of. People were not familiar with that before. And it's dealing with issues of chronic diseases. So we have things like high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, but it includes so much more than physical health. It also includes emotional health, having good sleep hygiene, stress reduction. So it uses lifestyles such as exercise, nutrition, all these factors so that we can promote healthy living. Because health is more than just our physical health and wellness, but it's also a combination of our spiritual health, our social health, our emotional wellness, and all the other above.
So I've heard some other terminologies used as communicable and non-communicable diseases. Where does lifestyle diseases fall in that kind of category?
So lifestyle disease deals with non-communicable disease, which means something that's not transmitted from one person to another. In the past, we had a lot of issues with TB, malaria, HIV, and infections. But now we found that the incidence and the prevalence of those non-communicable diseases is surpassing even those that are communicable, which means transmitted from one to another.
And what is the cause for this?
Largely, it's due to improper lifestyle. Yeah, the way that we're living, the way that the people are moving toward urbanization, and our changes in health practices are really affecting our health.
I believe we are going to be working towards getting solutions to some of these problems, not just talking about these diseases. Now, earlier on, Dr. Hong, I talked about a biblical verse from the book of 3 John. And here, I think the writer talks to one of the church elders called Gaius, and he says he is wishing him well, that he may be prosper, that he may be in good health. What does that mean to you as a medical doctor?
For each one of my patients, my biggest desire is that they have complete recovery, that they stop taking all their medications, that they are cured of all disease, and that they are, as God wanted us to be healthy and to live forever. That was our original plan when we were created. So that's what I envision for them, is that they not just live long, but that they live a very fulfilling and happy life, that they feel very fulfilled.
You know, when you say that, that sounds very interesting, that you would wish your patients to stop taking medicines. You know, sometimes people think that doctors just want people to be sick because that's where they get their income from. So when your patients stop taking medication and they're all feeling well, how does that add up? Where would be your job as a doctor?
Well, my job would be to help the other patients who are on drugs. You know, my goal is to have them graduate from the school where they're just taking medicines, and rather that they live a life where they don't need to be dependent on medicines anymore.
Well, thank you so much. Now, back to our topic on lifestyle diseases. Some people say that these are diseases that are originally meant to be for the Western world, and they have nothing to do with the sub-Saharan Africa or maybe the third world countries. What's your take on these issues of lifestyle diseases vis-a-vis, you know, the locations of where these things come from?
So I think that it is true that they originated from the West, but as you can see now, the Western influence has been approaching for Africa and the East. Now we have fast food, we have more pollution from the vehicles, we have all these chemical waste factories. So with the adoption of Western practices, and not all of them are good, now we've adopted also the Western diseases, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke. These were previously not seen as common in places like Asia and Africa, but now it's much more common now.
Does it mean that these diseases have kind of reduced in the Western world and they're kind of increasing in sub-Saharan Africa and in the third world countries, or they're just increasing in these other parts of the world and also in the West they're still prevalent? What does that mean?
So it means that this is now a global pandemic. This is now affecting every continent on the world. Every community is being affected by this, that this is now an issue that we must address globally.
Okay. Now, you mentioned some of this earlier, but could you tell us about some of the risk factors that lead to these lifestyle diseases?
So the good thing is that a lot of these diseases share a lot of commonalities, which means that if you have certain risk factors for one, they will also be the same risk factors for other diseases. So you could be treating one, but also that would help to kill many. We say this phrase, you kill two birds with one stone. So if you lose weight, if you help change your activity level, if you help change the nutrition, the way you're eating, you could be addressing multiple of these diseases. So the risk factors typically that we look at are things that are either you can change, it's called a modifiable risk factor, and a non-modifiable risk factor. Things that you cannot change is your age. We cannot change those, though many wish that we could. You cannot change your gender. You cannot change your ethnicity. So those things are non-changeable, non-modifiable. But modifiable things we can change, such as our weight. We change our weight on a daily basis, for some, through weekly basis. You change things like what you eat, what you don't eat. Your cholesterol levels is impacted by your nutrition. You change things depending on your activity level. And then also your behavioral practices. I can choose whether I want to smoke. I can choose whether to take that extra, shot of whiskey or some alcohol. So those are modifiable risk factors.
Now, how easy is it to deal with these modifiable factors? Because to some people, they find it really hard. It's a struggle. Is it really possible? Is it easy to deal with these modifiable factors?
It's not easy. In fact, I would say it's the most difficult thing that we have to do is learning to change health behavior and changing health practices. It's very difficult.
So what you're saying is that in terms of these lifestyle diseases, once we have dealt with these modifiable factors, we'll be able to take care of them a great deal.
Yes.
So what are some of these lifestyle diseases that we are going to look at? I know we are going to be breaking down into them in details. And what are some of the common ones that you see around that you have to deal with from time to time that we'll now be breaking into and looking at them now one by one?
So through this season, through these series of conversations, we'll be looking at high blood pressure, which is called hypertension, diabetes, which is the high sugar in the blood. We'll be looking at obesity, stroke, heart disease. We'll be also talking about peptic ulcer disease. We'll even touch upon cancer. So those are the major issues that we'll be dealing with.
Now, those are very important issues to take into consideration. Why is it important that we really have to look at these issues of lifestyle diseases? What is this single most important thing that makes it impossible for us to just ignore them? And that's why that makes our viewer really need to have the need to listen and to watch this conversation.
So I think it's important for two reasons. One is that it's just so common. Now, it's not possible you don't know somebody who has a lifestyle disease. Whether it's a neighbor, whether it's your friend, a community member, a family member, if somebody is impacted by this. You've known somebody who has this disease. The second is that it really has been limiting us in terms of our life expectancy and also our disability. So it's now a leading cause of death and disability worldwide. So those are reasons why we need to do it. It's just so common now, and it's also things that are really hurting us impactfully.
Okay, I really don't know about the statistics, but between infectious diseases, things like malaria and others, and these lifestyle diseases, which one is now like taking the highest toll between the infectious diseases and the lifestyle diseases?
So the good thing is that infectious diseases usually have a remedy, and they're not usually prolonged and chronic. For infectious diseases, is also based on region and geography. Lifestyle disease, however, has no geographic limitation. It's the entire area, whether you're from a village, from a slum, or whether you're an elite government member of the city, whether you're at the very, very top. So it knows no discrimination of disease, whereas some tropical diseases and some infectious diseases may be limited on where you live. But the lifestyle disease really, really impacts the entire economy.
But that's why I find it a little bit difficult, because some of these diseases that you mentioned, they were highly associated with the wealthy and influential people, like, obesity. Where does a poor person get to be obese, or maybe to have diseases like hypertension, diabetes? These were probably diseases that were associated with the rich. How did it turn out that now it doesn't depend on any geography or any of these proximities, and it cuts across?
The reason why is because our society and the culture is changing now, where access to refined products and refined foods is much more readily available. And people want easier access to very refined meals, and also oil and sugar, and those things are not as expensive as they used to be. As you may know, countless generations ago, those things were very difficult to obtain. And for example, sugar, oil, those things could maybe only be obtained from very, very people with means. But now it's readily available to the poor, so they're also getting those diseases too.
Okay. Now you talked about these lifestyle diseases and their impact on the economy. How do they impact on the economy, as it were?
So our government, the Kenya government, and every government around the world has been spending a lot of money dealing with people with chronic illnesses now. The prescriptions are adding up, where people are taking now 5 drugs, 10 drugs, 15 drugs, merely just to go through one day, each day, just to sustain them. And their hospitalization rates, they're coming in and out of the hospital now, utilizing a lot of resources within the healthcare facility. And they're also placing a lot of burden for disability. They're using up more insurances. So these things are issues that affect the entire economy.
So if we reduced on some of these illnesses, we would reduce on the expenditures that goes towards the curative measures towards these diseases?
Definitely. Yes, definitely. And I believe that with our economy not doing so well, and it may be a matter of time before it gets worse, we cannot afford to get sick and be burdened down with these health illnesses. So being healthy and addressing these lifestyle diseases will save you money if you're economically thinking about that for the future as well.
So what do you think? Where exactly is the problem? Is it about ignorance? Do we need to create more awareness? Do we need to do more seminars and train more people on some of these things so that they know what they're doing wrong and what to do right? Which is the right approach that we should take towards some of these lifestyle diseases?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think that it's a difficult one to answer because it's multifactorial, which means that there's many aspects. Some people may have never heard about health. What is health exactly? They say, I feel fine. I'm not sick. I'm not feeling any pain. So I cannot be unhealthy. So raising awareness among people saying that you can be healthy and you can be feeling well, but still have some poor practices like lifestyle behaviors. On the other hand, we do have people who are well enlightened and they're learned, but they may need help with motivation. Perhaps we need to give them some empowerment, or we need to help equip them with tools for success so that they know how to choose the right foods to eat, how to incorporate healthy behaviors in their life.
So what I hear you say is that we need more than one-pronged approach towards solving some of these issues, but you're actually saying that there needs to be more awareness.
Yes.
Okay, so how are we going to do this? Do we need to involve people in the medical practice? Do we need to involve the teaching schools? Do we need to involve churches? I think it should be a multi-pronged approach, but what would be the best way to approach it so that we achieve the best results within the shortest period of time, which will be, meaningful?
So the reason why we have decided to start this programming is that we're hoping that it will reach many people so that people are aware of health issues, so that we can increase the health literacy of the community of all population and people who are watching. So we're hoping that as you learn and as you discover health issues and also how to change lifestyle, that you'll share among your friends, your neighbors in the village, because that may be the fastest way that we can raise awareness is through the word of mouth and through our social networking.
But Dr. Wong, there is something that I find so difficult. One thing that I find so difficult is dealing with human beings. There are some human beings that just know that this is wrong for me, and they would still want to continue doing it. And no matter how much you create awareness, you sensitize them, you educate them, you tell them, they still think that they want to follow the same wrong path that they've been pursuing. How do we deal with such people in this day and age?
Those can be frustrating to deal with, but as a Christian, I believe that we are all sinners, which means that when God created us, He was very compassionate and merciful. And being a father of my own, and I have children now, I'm learning the practice of being patient when they're doing wrong and of being forbearing when they're just deliberately doing things that are bad for their body. And I think that we should, instead of being frustrated that they're making bad choices, we need to have pity. And we need to really help them on the road to success. We need to give them the tools, empower them, help pick them up when they fall down, because falling is inevitable. But what we do afterward, we pick them up and we set them on the path again. So we just need to pray for one another, encourage each other, and also be examples in our community of living healthy lifestyles for other people.
And be patient with those even who are strong-headed and they don't care about their health. You seem to care more about their health than themselves.
Yes.
We still have to be patient with such.
Even more so.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hong. I think that's a very important aspect, and I think many people within our midst really don't care. I don't know whether I'm the one who is observing this. I see so many people who just don't care about their health, and yet they know that this is good for them. I don't know what you feel as a doctor. Maybe you walk into a place and you see that there's this person who is sick and is still doing something that is wrong. Do you sometimes feel like you want to help them, you want to talk to them, you want to advise them? How do you feel when you see that someone is doing something that is going to have adverse effects on their health, and they still do that?
First, what moves me the most is I feel very pitiful, and I feel sad because they're not realizing that they're harming themselves. You know, those people are the people that we were sent here in this world as Christians to minister to evangelize to really help them raise their awareness of health. That's what I first feel. And there's many different ways of reaching people. You know, sometimes when you deal with it directly and you tell them, you need to change this, you need to do that, that really, really puts up...
It repels them.
Yes, you're creating a barrier so that they're saying, I don't want to listen to you. But when you come from a point of love, and when you mingle with them as a friend, I think that will really help. In the Desire of Ages, it says that Jesus cared for the one as one of their own good. So he mingled with them, he was eating with them, he was living with them, and once you develop that relationship and that rapport, and they see that this is my brother, my sister who cares for me, they're more readily to take in what you have to tell them. And I think that building a relationship is very, very key for good change.
Oh, that's a very good take-home. Caring relationship, just as Jesus did while here on earth, he cared for the people that he mingled with. Now, Dr. Hong, do you envision a situation where some of these lifestyle diseases may have maybe gone down, the figures dissipated, or do you see a situation where they're just on the rise despite all these efforts? What's your vision? What's your outlook for the years that you've spent in the medical field? Because these things seem to be very, very important, and I don't know what is your outlook towards the trends so far.
So it hasn't been very positive. I can say confidently that within the last decade, more and more people are diagnosed with this earlier, and the severity is also increasing. So now we're seeing earlier people die from a heart attack and stroke. We're seeing younger children diagnosed with obesity. We're seeing a lot of people with strokes at a very young age. So I can say that, you know, not only is it more common, but people are affected by this more earlier on. So it's getting worse and worse as we look at our society.
And really, just as you had said, we need to do some more education, more awareness, so that this information passes on from one person to another. You had earlier talked about, one-on-one communication. I think this is a task that we have to do, especially the Christian community, so that we get people to be aware of some of these things and also know what's best for them to do. One more question I want to ask is, when we talk about these lifestyle diseases, are we going to be addressing actual cures for them? Because we had talked about ways in which we could address the risk factors, but what about actual cures for some of these diseases? You know, cancer has been there for a long time and people have been struggling with it. Diabetes, hypertension. Do we have real cures for some of these situations?
So that's the most important thing of all, is that yes, there is hope. And I think hope is very profound and it gives people meaning. Not only are these diseases preventable, but these diseases, once you have them and you're willing to make those changes and stick with the changes, you can achieve cure as long as you continue down the path of cure and success. So not only can we prevent disease, but we can also reverse disease.
So we're talking about preventing disease, we're talking about reversing disease, but what about cure? Do I have medications that I need to take? Do I have of course you talked about corrective actions. Can they be reversed to complete negative?
So in medicine, we rarely use the word cure because we're trying to be a little bit cautiously optimistic. So I will say that it is possible to receive remission, which means that I had this disease and it's no longer there. But there's always a risk to go back to that disease if I go back to my bad practices. Yes.
So that's what you're talking about. We can reverse it,
yes,
to the extent that someone can actually feel well and be comfortable in their status of health.
We check their blood levels and they no longer have diabetes, they no longer have high blood pressure, but that risk is still there that if they go back to the other way of living before, that the disease will come back again.
Okay, now as we wind up this session, earlier on you had talked about people don't know what is health. This is a matter of healthy conversations. Can you bring us to speed on what is health?
So the definition of health has changed. A long time ago, the WHO defined health as the absence of any disease, the absence of any infirmity, the absence of any condition. But we know that health is not just an absence of disease, but it is a fulfillment of all things good. So it's not just that you don't have a condition, but health is the embodiment of complete mental, spiritual, emotional, physical wellness. Not just living a very long life, but living a fulfilled and very happy life, being content in all spheres and all aspects of well-being.
Now, when you talk about that aspect of health, do you look at it as a continuum where you reach this point and you are like full of health, and you are on this point and you have little less of it? Would you see health in that perspective?
So I think everyone goes through health on a daily basis a little bit differently. Some days you may feel a little bit lower, some days you may feel a little bit higher. We say ups and downs, ups and downs. But the matter is that health is so related. Like if you have, for example, if your mind is really, really worried about stress, about school, about finances, then your body's going to take a toll as well. You're going to develop some ulcers or some headaches. And likewise, if your body is not feeling well, if you're sick with diabetes, if you're sick with all these issues, your mind is also going to be having stress and worry. So health is multifactorial. It's also involving many, many aspects.
Okay. You talked about different levels, but it's not quite a continuum of a level of optimum wellness and a lower level of optimum wellness. I don't know what you'd say about that.
So my goal is that each person feels better and better from the previous day, that they continue reaching upward and onward to a complete restoration of health. We believe that health is a complete restoration, and it's a process. It's not just maybe one day we're here and one day they're this, but each day we want them to get better and better. So it's possible that sometimes they also sidetrack, but we want to take them where they are and move them and elevate them so that they can be at a better place tomorrow than where they were today.
So what would be the full benefit of this vibrant optimum health when they have reached that level, when they feel good and the absence of disease is there? What would be the benefit of that to this individual?
There are so many benefits. You would be a really good student, get highest grades in your class. You'd be a really, really brilliant and hardworking employee. You'd be promoted. You would have better relationships with your family, with your children, your spouse. You'd have better meaning in your life. You'd just be happy all the time. You wouldn't be upset at people. It would change your mood. There's just profound impacts on health.
So when my health is affected, I'm going to miss all of that.
Yes.
And maybe add worse situations to my situation. Thank you so much, Dr. Danny. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to participate in this program. I'm looking forward to better days ahead as we talk about these healthy conversations. We have just begun on this session of lifestyle diseases, and we're going to be talking more and more, breaking them down into pieces as we look at the definitions of these diseases, the causes of diseases, the remedies to the situations, and how to be able to reverse them so that we could achieve optimum or vibrant health, as it were. Thank you so much, Dr. Hong, for being here to help us come to speed with some of these things, and we look forward to having you more and more in our next sessions as we get more help in Matters Health. Please, dear viewer, keep it Hope Channel as we talk about Matters Health in Healthy Conversations. My name is Philip Gai, and I am your host for this program. Thank you and be blessed.